Hello, good morning to everybody in the US, good evening to everybody in India, and welcome to our Pravachana Malika talk number 43. We're going to have a talk on very exciting topic, understanding episode of Yakshaprasna from Mahabharata. So we are very, very privileged and happy to invite our featured speaker, Sree Aswath Garu, who is the adjunct faculty, Hindu University of America, Florida. And today's program will have the Veda Kusumanjali, followed by the Sangeetanjali, and Dr. Prabhakar, my father, will introduce the speaker and the topic, and we'll have Chandra Reddy, Dr. Chandra Reddy, and Dr. Neeraj Arora do the concluding remarks and vote of thanks. So with that, we'll start. Vasan sir and Shivalinga, please.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Apadamauliparyantam Gurunam Apidim Smare Tena Vijnaha Pranashyanti Siddhyanti Cha Manorathaha Om Bhadram Karne Vishnuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashye Makshavir Yajatraha Thirairangai Tushtvagumsastanubihi Vashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swastina Indro Vruddhashrabaha स्वस्ति न पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो रिषनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ अग्नेन सुपथाराये अस्मान् विश्वानि देवायनानि विद्वान् योऽध्यस्माजुहुराणमेनो भूयिष्ठान्तेन मुक्तिं विदेम ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ आप्यान्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक् प्राणः चक्षुः श्रोत्रमतो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मामा ब्रह्म निराकरोतु अनिराकरणस्तु अनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरते य उपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ आब्रह्मन् ब्राह्मणो ब्रह्मवर्चसि जायताम् आराष्ट्रे राजन्यः शूर इषव्यो अतिव्याधि महारथो जायताम् दोग्ध्रीधेनुः ओढानड्वान् आशु सप्तिः पुरन्धिर्योषाः जिष्णोरतेष्ठाः सवेयो युवा अस्य यजमानस्य वीरो जायताम् निकामे निकामेन पर्जन्यो न वर्षतु फलवत्यो न वोषधयः पच्यन्ताम् योगक्षेमो न कल्पेताम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ अथ पुरुषो ह वै नारायणो कामयत प्रजासृजेयेति नारायणात् प्राणो जायते मनः सर्वेन्द्रियाणि च कं वायुर्ज्योतिराप पृथिवी विश्वस्य धारिणी नारायणात् ब्रह्मा जायते नारायणादुद्रो जायते नारायणादिन्द्रो जायते नारायणात् प्रजापतयः प्रजायन्ते नारायणात् द्वादशादित्या रुद्रा वसव सर्वाणि छन्दागुंसि नारायणादेव समुत्पद्यन्ते नारायणे प्रवर्तन्ते नारायणे प्रलीयन्ते ॐ अथ नित्यो नारायणः ब्रह्मा नारायणः शिवश्च नारायणः शक्वश्च नारायणः यावा पृथिव्यो च नारायणः कालश्च नारायणः यशश्च नारायणः ऊर्ध्वश्च नारायणः अधश्च नारायणः दोर्बहिश्च नारायणः नारायण ये वेदकं सर्वं यद्भूतं यच्च भव्यं निष्कलो निरञ्जनो निर्विकल्पो निराख्यातो देव एको नारायणः तद्धियोऽस्ति एवं वेद इत्युपनिषत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ तत्सत् सर्वं श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु ॐ तत्सत् हरि ओं गुरुजी नमस्ते.
Thank you, Vasan sir. Thank you, Shivalinga. So now we'll have a prayer by Shreya, Kumari Shreya. So she's playing the Veena.
Namaskaram, my name is Harshini and I am a student of Lalita Kala Academy. My Guruji is Miss Lalita. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to play the Veena. Today I will be playing a small song dedicated to Goddess Meenakshi. Thank you.
All right, that's great. So yeah, we will now have my father, Dr. Prabhakar, introduce the speaker and the topic.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Sri Rama. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. So today we are having a very important session which we have been thinking of having it. At last we could find an appropriate person to talk about the today's topic, understanding the Yakshaprasna, an important episode from Mahabharata. And actually, Aswath Garu is very famous in to all of us, in America and India, and also very familiar to all of us. I don't think much introduction is needed because he was in Columbus, Ohio, when I happened to meet him first, and he was conducting Veda classes, and my son, Dr. Prasad, took me first time, giving me in Subway the dinner, and attended his class, and then onwards we became friends and so on, and also benefactors to each other. And now he has moved to Orlando. There also he is doing wonderful work, spreading our Indian culture, our Hindu religion, and so many things. So I don't want to much talk about him because there are innumerable uh, students and bhaktas to our Aswathji. And so today we are very much lucky to have him to talk to us. Last year, we could not get him. Last year only for one talk he was there. And today we are having, and we wish to have his talks more and more. And the topic is Yakshaprasna. See, Mahabharata is an encyclopedia. It is said what is not in Mahabharata is not elsewhere. What is not, what is elsewhere is in Mahabharata. So that's why we call, all our poets call Vyasochistam Jagat Sarvam. The entire world, the knowledge is again from Vyasa Bhagavan. Vyasa is Vishnu only. Vyasaya Vishnu Rupaya. Vyasarupaya Vishnave Namo Vai Brahma Nidhaye Vasisthaya Namo Namaha. So Vyasa Maharshi is Brahma Nidhi. Brahma is knowledge. Nidhi is a treasure house of knowledge and all that. So talking about that, then we are seeing that there are 124 or so questions posed by Yaksha to the Pandavas, actually, Nakula, then Sahadeva, then all the four brothers went to fetch water in the Vanaparvam. When they are all thirsty and exhausted, And they said, I mean, Dharmaraja said, go and fetch water. So at last they found a lake and not caring. So they were so happy, and Sahadeva started drinking the water. Immediately there was an Akashvani telling that, no, 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 this lake belongs to me. You cannot drink the water or fetch water or take away water unless you answer my questions. So all the four brothers were short of this question, that kind of voice, but they all forgot about that to answer, but they were anxious to drink water. And Dharmaraja came, but Dharmaraja is known to be so many qualities are there, and Dharma is always with him. And Dharmaraja said, when you say that your lake this water lake belongs to you, I don't take it or drink it unless you approve it. So that's how you ask to put questions. So there are questions and answers for a long time, and wonderful answers which are connected to the aspects of knowledge, aspects of attitude, and also so many things are involved in that, very simple. And so when he was ready, and the first question was, the question was, so who is the Surya Aditya? Who's installed him there? How Aditya is spreading his light? How he gets set himself or rise himself? So what is that? All that question. And then the answer was also very interesting. The answer was Brahma is Aditya and Devas make him move, and Dharma and Satyam, and he is Satye Pratitishthritam. That's why even in the Rigveda we have got a sloka, Asatyena Rajasa Vartamano Nivesayan Amrutam Martyancha Hiranyayena Savitarathena Devo Yati Bhavana Vipasyan. So that mantra of Surya Bhagavan says, Satyena Devayati Devaha. So that was the answer. So Brahma, Devaha, Dharma, Satyam, Pratishta. Apart from that, I want to quote an important thing. When Maranjane Prasad was small boy, small child, I suddenly made him sit on the wall of our compound in our house. And so he put a question, Nana, who's made Surya Bhagavan sit in the sky? And I told him his mother made him sit on the sky. Immediately put me one more question. Did he not cry to put him down on the ground? And did he not cry? Then so like that he went on putting so many questions about sun and how is that sun setting out? And how is that setting come? How light comes? So far is the sun. We are so far, and how can his light come? Our light in the house. So he went on putting questions when he was a small boy, LKG or less than that. So that I remember. The same way, the Yakshaprasnas, Yaksha Bhagavan asks, what is that sun? Who gives power to him? Who make them move? And how he sets himself and how he is again born? It's an interesting question. So like that, I mean, the thoughts are the same, but we don't know how it all that thought came. He wonders when I tell that to him. Now, putting question upon Aditya when he was made to sit on the wall, compound wall. And he is not crying to make him sit down on the ground, but does not Surya cry before his mother that how is it? And another point was this Aurobindo. He has written volumes on the Veda, that is secret of the Veda and all that. So when I saw the title, The Secret of the Veda, and I was just wanted to go through and say, is there a secret in Veda? That's what is the question. Then when I opened the first volume of Aurobindo, the same was the question. And with that he started the volume 1, Aurobindo. Is there a secret of Veda? So like that, the ideas are going on, and but the Mahabharata is the source. Why we say that what is with us is in Mahabharata. What is in Mahabharata is in us. So not talking much on this Yakshaprasna, very curious thing. We get plenty of knowledge, and moreover, all the questions are very much difficult to answer ordinarily. We take everything for granted. So it is said to be transforming our, see, it is a life transforming episode in Mahabharata. Bhagavad Gita, we have got one, Anugita, then we have got Viduraniti, Sanat Sujatiyam, and so many important episodes. Although, and moreover, Mahabharata is not a Parayana Grantha. It is not religious text. It is a historical one. And also, I was told that you cannot read continuously, even otherwise, the Varayanam Mahabharata. You should only pick episodes here and there and then read, but that is always safe. So in that spree and in the Sanatana Dharma, that herald, we have today picked up that Yakshaprasnas, and we have been very much familiar with the Bhagavad Gita and for action, and Anugita for moksha dharma and try to get rid of the moha and all that, and Viduraniti to get some moral character and conduct and see that we go on very well in the life. But Dhritarashtra could not be mended, though he's a librarian. He's only a librarian. He keeps books, all that knowledge. He never goes through them. And we have, moreover, he has been introduced to Sanat Sujatiyam. So these are all important ratnas from Mahabharata, which could be of use to us in daily life. So I thought a suitable person must be there to give us some kind of comprehensive idea about Yakshaprasnas. Sir, you can go more than 1 hour and see that we all get benefited with your wonderful, educative, and inspiring talk. Now, Dr. Aswath Garu speaks to us, and he's a Saundarya Lahari. I mean, he's a Samskrita Sree also. We could honor him in that way in our Veda Kendra long years back. And he gave also talks in Bangalore when he came to Bangalore in our Veda Kendra. So we have been in touch with him and with his spreading all that. So we are lucky to have him here. Thank you very much. Please.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhetamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Om Om Namas Sarvebhyaha. Thank you very much, Dr. Prabhakar Garu, for the wonderful introduction. In fact, you have already told most of what I wanted to say, so not much is left for me, but then still, uh, I am so very grateful for inviting me this morning. And as you mentioned, Prabhakar Garu, Prasad, we are all known each other for 3 decades. And, we go back a number of years, and so I'm so honored, delighted to have known you all these years. And thank you very much for kindly inviting me this morning. So as Dr. Prabhakar Garu mentioned, the subject is Yakshaprasna. Now this is a very beautiful and a very significant text which holds its relevance even to this day, because a lot of texts have come and gone in all cultures, and not all of them have survived the test of time or have retained their relevance. But Yakshaprashna is one of those, in addition to Bhagavad Gita, of course, is one of those texts which holds value and direction, gives direction to our confused minds even to this day. As Dr. Pravachana mentioned, this is an important episode in the great epic of Mahabharata, of Bhagavan Vedavyasa. It actually occurs in a book called Vana Parva. Parva means a book, section, chapter. There are 18 books in the Mahabharata. Out of this, This is Vanaparva is the third volume. In this third volume, there is the beautiful dialogue between Yaksha, who is actually Yamadharmaraja, and then Yudhishthira, the eldest of the Pandavas, who actually was born blessed by Yama. This situation is well known to anybody who is familiar with Mahabharata, that sage Durvasa had granted a boon to Kunti, pleased by her service, and said, you can invoke any of the gods and they will actually grant you a son of their eminence. So in that process, Yudhishthira was born with the blessing of Dharmaraja, of Yamadharmaraja, who was invoked by Kunti. So if you study the Mahabharata closely, and it reveals that these divine fathers of the Pandavas, they appear before their sons occasionally. And then they challenge these sons to do extraordinary things. And they revel in the intelligence and the prowess that their sons show. This is true of every parent. Every parent desires his child to excel in life. So we already saw Prabhakar Garu with what pride he spoke about Prasad, even in his childhood, how he was showing that perspicacious and intelligent questions. How much of delight Prabhakar Garu must have had when he saw the child. This is the psychology of any parent. So much so we say putradikchet parajayam. Every parent wants their child to excel. And likewise, there is also the teacher also. He thinks that his student must excel him. Shishyadichet parajayam. There is no rivalry or there is no jealousy between parent and child or between teacher, guru and shishya. So we will see that this pride, this joy, this ecstasy of a parent in seeing the eminence of a child, of a son, of a daughter. So that's one of the beautiful relational messages that we see in Yakshaprasna. Of course, there are so many questions and answers that more than that, the overriding influence that we see is the relationship between a father and son. Then the title has got two parts, Yaksha and Prashna. So what do we mean by this Yaksha? The word Yaksha actually occurs several times in the Rigveda. Even prior to the Vedic times, the concept of Yaksha was there. In the great scripture among the Upanishads, the Kenopanishad, we meet Yaksha. So who are these Yakshas? They are actually a class of supernatural beings with supernatural powers. And when we look at it, they seem to be even pre-Vedic deities. So some scholars have traced the origin of the name of Yaksha itself from the word Jaksha, Jaksha. Jaksha becomes Yaksha. In fact, there is a Panini Sutra also which says Yajayor Nabheda. You can substitute Ya by Ja or Ja by Ya. So Jaksha means chewing, eating. So these yakshas are also associated with the trees, with the water, with the fertility. So they are a very powerful divine beings. So we also come across the concept of yaksha in Bharata's Natya Shastra, Bharata Muni's Natya Shastra. So for the sake of presenting a drama or a dance, we need a stage. And that stage has to be strong, it must be firm, it must be able to hold the weight of many of the costumes of the people. And therefore, it is said that Indra and other Devatas went to inspect the dance stage. So, to secure the stage, and to combat all obstacles and the evil and all the obstructive forces. So Brahma installed the pillars of that stage was called as Mattavarana stage. Varana means elephant. Matta means elephant in a rut. That means it can be so unstable. So this Mattavarana stage, Brahma installed Yaksha, Bhuta, Pishacha, and Guhyakas, four kinds of beings. Stambheshu Mattavaranyah Sthapita Parirakshane Bhuta Yaksha Pishachascha Guhyakaha Mahavalaha. So we come across the concept of Yaksha in the Natya Shastra also. So the point I'm trying to make is Yakshas were there in the Vedas, Yakshas are there in the Upanishads, Yakshas are, we meet them in the fine arts area also. And these Yakshas are also mischievous and playful. That we see in Yakshaprasna itself. They are mischievous. This Yaksha of Yakshaprasna is mischievous because he creates a spell on four of the brothers who appear to be dead. Because later on, at the end of the conversation, Yaksha revives all of them to life. So how can a completely dead person be revived? That's impossible. Only thing is here he has created a spell so that it appeared as though all the four brothers had died. This is the mischievous and playful quality of a Yaksha. In fact, they are so colorful personalities that Jainism and Buddhism also adopted the Yaksha concept into their fold. In fact, every one of the 24 Tirthankaras of the Jaina theology, every one of them is accompanied by a Yaksha and his consort Yakshini. Yaksha, Yakshini, Manibhadra and others are very, very famous in Jaina wisdom. And these Yakshas are also abundantly seen in art and iconography. In fact, a couple of days ago, I shared with Dr. Pravachana Garu a beautiful picture of a sculpture of Yaksha from the Gandhara art. Gandhara is present-day Afghanistan. And they were also, they are, in fact, because Yakshas still exist, they are seen in art and in iconography. If you were to go to any temple, please look out for those special forms. Those Yakshas will be placed in strategic areas in the temples and also in the Jaina shrines. There was a great scholar by name Anand Kumara Swami. He has written a seminal work on Yakshas titled Yakshas Essays in Water Cosmology. That's a worthwhile text to see because in that he also deals with Yakshaprasna. And in fact, even our Ganapati, the deity Ganapati, has been considered as a Yaksha. So yakshas are a very important part of the divine structure of Hinduism. So this is one part of the title Yaksha. There is a second part of the title Prashna. So what does it mean? Prashna literally means question, but Prashna is also a technical term which means a group of mantras and concepts which are actually transformative in nature. That is why this is also called as Yakshaprasna in the same light as we would call Rudra Prashna, Namaka Prashna, Aruna Prashna, etc. in the Veda. So that it's not just question and answer, but it is also a book of knowledge. This Yakshaprasna is actually analogous to the Socratic method of conversation. So whenever we have to discuss a very important concept, and it has to be a conversation. If it is a one-way lecture, then it has got some value, because in this lecture, what happens? A person who is learned in a subject will be teaching somebody who has no idea about that subject. Then lecture is valuable. But what if there are two people who have expertise in their own way? And then there it's not a teaching, but it is actually a discussion. It's a samvada. In that samvada, we have to follow what is standardized as the Socratic method. So let us see if Yakshaprasna falls into that category. First, what happens is the questioner, he poses a question on a specific concept, and then he says, answer this question. For example, Yaksha asked Yudhishthira, exactly I'm picking up from the cue from Dr. Prabhakar Garu. Prabhakar Garu said about Surya. So let's take that question, because now that you already heard from Dr. Prabhakar Garu, let's continue the thread of thought. So Yaksha asks the question, Kim Svit Adityam Unnayati? Kim Svit Adityam Unnayati means who or what makes the sun rise. Because without being impelled by some force, nothing happens. So if the sun should rise, then there must be some force which pushes the sun to come into the horizon. You can say it is the revolution of the earth, but who propels the earth to revolve? You may say certain forces of physics. Now, what is behind the forces of physics? So if you go in that iterative discussion, we will come to the actual understanding of this, who is behind everything. And that is why, cutting to the chase of all the intermediate steps, Yudhishthira says, Brahma Adityam Unnayati. Brahma, that is the Veda, is the one that makes the sun rise. So what do you mean by Veda? Is it the book? Does Rigveda, the book of Rigveda, will come and push Surya to come? No, no. Actually, we have to answer more closely. It is not the book. It is the power of the cosmic knowledge. That is what propels. So if we are blindly religious, what kind of understanding we get from this question? We will simply accept, yes, the Brahma actually propels, and then we will move on. Another possibility can happen, and that possibility is completely dismissing both the question and the answer as silly, trivial, pointless. Two extremes of reaction could be there. Because the text does not expand. How did Yudhishthira come to the conclusion, Brahma Adityam Unnayati? How did he come to the conclusion? So to answer that question, we must include the second principle of the Socratic method. So in the first principle, there is a question and there is an answer. In this methodology, there must be a second principle. That is to think critically and deeply the question as well as the answer in the overall setting. In the instant Yakshaprasna case, each question has to be examined in the overall context of the text of Mahabharata. Secondly, we have to analyze this question in the intellectual background of Yudhishthira. Then only we will be able to glean the correct meaning. So let us look at Yudhishthira and the Pandavas, and Yudhishthira especially. What was his training? What did he go through in his life to be able to respond this answer to Yaksha's question according to the Socratic method? Let us look at it. You know the episode of the lacquer house, the Yakshagraha, where the Pandavas were supposed to be burned to death. That was Duryodhana's plot. Then Vidura came to know of it, and that Vidura masterminds, unbeknownst to Dhritarashtra or Duryodhana, and then he actually helps the Pandavas to escape the burning building. So they survived this attempt on their life, and they started moving in the forest because they were just 5, no weapons, nothing. And then if Duryodhana comes to know that they are alive, he would do every effort to attack on them and kill them by some other means. So they had to move secretly. So they started moving in the forest to avoid any further attacks on their life. So for a few months, actually, they were roaming about in the forest until they reached the Ekachakra Nagara, the famous story where Bakasura was slain. Now the question will come to the Socratic method of studying any part of the text in the overall scheme of things. What was the daily routine of the Pandavas in the forest? Were they just going on hiking and then trying to survive? And in the night, the one of the Pandavas, usually it will be Arjuna, because he is a Gudakesha, one who has conquered sleep, or it would be Bhima mostly. So they would be sitting vigil to make sure that some wild animal doesn't get them, and therefore one of the persons was always awake, keeping vigil. Then during the day, they would try to find some source of water, and then they would have their bath and all that, and they would probably hunt or get some whatever fruits and herbs was available. Is that all they were doing? Taking a nap in the afternoon and then moving on a little more. There is just half a verse in the entire corpus of Mahabharata, which tells us about the daily routine of the Pandavas. And that becomes a very important bhumika, a very important background when we are analyzing the question and answers of Yakshaprasna. Obviously, within 1 hour, we cannot talk about all the 124 questions, but I am trying to establish the methodology of studying. Mahabharata says the daily routine of the Pandavas as they were moving in the forest after the Lakshagraha episode, Brahmam Vedamadhiyanaha Vedangani cha sarvashaha Niti Shastrancha, they were spending every single day Brahmam Vedamadhiyanaha. They were studying the Vedas, they were chanting and repeating and recalling the Vedic mantras. Vedanga cha sarvashaha. All the other ancillary texts like how the Veda should be pronounced, Shiksha, what is the grammar Vyakarana, what is the metrical chandas, and then how do you get the etymology of the word Nirukta. So all of these branches of the Vedas, they were actually recalling, chanting, discussing. And they were also talking about Niti Shastra. So what does it tell us? Now again, I want you to imagine these five brothers and the mother Kunti, six of them, have run away from a burning house with just their clothes on their body. So if every morning they have to do Brahmam Vedamadhyayana, and if they have to recollect Vedanga and have to talk about Niti Shastra, where was their library? Did they carry any books with them? They had pretty much nothing, just their clothes. One day, as they were moving through the forest, it was a hot day. Everybody gets exhausted and dehydrated. Kunti and the four brothers just collapse under a tree, and then they will be so almost they would have lost their consciousness. At that point of time, Bhima wants to bring water. So where is the vessel? What vessel do they have? Does he have to bring the water? There was nothing. So he had his upper garment, the uttariya, tattered. He takes that to the nearby brook, dips it into water, soaking that, and brings it and wrings the water into the mouth of his mother and the four brothers. I'm emphasizing this point because with absolutely no resources, how is it they were able to chant the Veda? They were able to recollect all the Vedangas and Niti Shastra because that was their training. Because it is not the Vidya that is there in the book. Because pustakasthatu ya vidya parahastagatam dhanam. Whatever Vidya is there in the book or the money which is with somebody else, it is not ours. It has to be in the pustaka, not in the pustaka, but in the in the mastishka. Mastishka is in our brain. It should be there. That was the training of the Pandavas. That is the training of Yudhishthira. We have to bear that in mind when we are studying the Yakshaprasna. And then all the Shastras was in their mind kantastha. They knew it by heart. It is not just they were actually reciting all of this, but their depth of scholarship was there, their contemplation was there. Suppose I have a month's vacation and I have nothing else to do, what would I do? I would just get up late in the morning, sleep in, and then eat breakfast and again take a nap and watch some movie. That's what I would do. But look at Pandavas, how they were spending, how they did not sit and start crying every single day. Oh, Duryodhana did this to us, Duryodhana did that to us, and then there was no gossiping that was going on. This was the training. Then they come to Panchala, to the court of to where Draupadi's Swayamvara was to take place. Actually, it was about a couple of months before the Swayamvara date was there, and still Pandavas were moving about incognito, so they changed their clothing into a Brahmana clothing, even though they were Kshatriyas, and they were begging for food. And the rest of the time in Panchala, in the capital, what were they doing? They were contemplating on the Upanishads. This is the intellectual power and background of Yudhishthira. Otherwise, these extraordinary responses to Yakshaprasna could not have happened without that training and years of training. So it is with this background in our mind we should study Yakshaprasna. So many of us do not have such erudition to understand the enigmatic question and the cryptic answers. So we have to go and seek a good commentary for understanding Yakshaprasna. One of my favorite commentaries on Yakshaprasna and on the Mahabharata is by Nilakantha. this Nilakanta gives an in-depth answer to each one of these questions. So let's go back to the original question. Kims with Anand, Kims with Adityam Unnayati. What is it that makes a sun rise? The answer was Brahma Adityam Unnayati. So Nilakanta in his commentary gives us the meaning of this. It is so well known in the Veda that Surya is none other than Atman. We have the mantra which says Surya Atma Jagatastastusha. Surya Atma Jagataha. So now the question is, what makes Surya rise has to be recast as what makes the Atman rise in an individual. What makes a consciousness rise up? For that, the answer is knowledge. See, now the question and the answer becomes very, very simple. So, which gives rise? Veda gives rise to Atma. That means what? Veda gives rise to the knowledge of the distinction between Atma, Anatma, the consciousness principle, and the inert principle of matter. So it is this Brahma that Unnayati Atmanam. Then the next question comes, Kechatasya Abhitaha Charaha. Who are the surrounding attendants? Because Surya doesn't simply appear alone, though he does, because we don't see what is around. So what is it that Atma comes with? Devaha tasya abhitaha charaha. The answer is the gods are his attendants. So who are these gods? These gods are our training. What is the training? The training is a mental calmness, shamaha, physical discipline, damaha, enduring hardship and difficulties, titiksha, a desire to withdraw from the hustle and bustle of life for contemplation, uparati, a complete commitment to knowledge, shraddha, and a tranquil disposition in our conduct, samadhana. So these are the devas that come up with the Atman. And so goes on the study. So since it is difficult for me to go through all the 90 shlokas and all the 122 or 124 questions enlisted in this text, that will require a full systematic course. So please request Dr. Prabhakar Garu to teach you the entire Yakshaprasna in greater detail, verse by verse, word by word. So now let's go back and look at the background. As I mentioned, the divine parents of the Pandavas would visit them in some form or the other. Indra visited Arjuna as Indra himself, he didn't disguise. And then he gets into a fight with Arjuna and Krishna when the Khandava Dahana, the forest was being consumed by Agni with the support of Arjuna and Indra, Arjuna and Krishna. Indra actually picks up a fight. Later on, he takes um, Arjuna to Swarga in his own body. Contrast this to Trishanku of Ramayana. He could not enter with a mortal body, but Indra takes Arjuna in his mortal body and then actually he gives a crown to him so that Arjuna also gets the name Kiriti. Then Vayu visits Bhima in the form of Hanuman. And now Yamadharmaraja is actually visiting Yudhishthira as a Yaksha. So to grant boons and powers to the Pandavas, For that reason, these divine parents come down. But then they will not just give freely. Just because they are his son, okay, you take whatever you want. All my property is yours. The son or the child should deserve. Only to a deserving child, wealth should be vested. That's another important lesson we learn from Mahabharata. If a person's child is not worthy, and you know that the wealth will be wasted, don't give anything to the child, give it to charity. Because wealth in the hands of a wrong person destroys dharma. That is why nothing comes free for the Pandavas. They have to actually demonstrate that they are worthy of the grace. This you will see in the episode of Arjuna meeting Indra, in the episode of Bhima meeting Hanuman, and now in the episode of Yaksha and Yama meeting. So the background also is created by these divine fathers. They put their child into a situation where their ability is tested to their limit. So we have seen that Narada Maharshi comes and then advises the Pandavas, now that you have actually married one girl, all the five of the brothers, it is bound to cause friction for the sake of a woman. And Narada Maharshi actually recounts the story of Sunda and Upasunda, two brothers, and says how one woman can cause rift among the brothers. So an agreement was entered into, and that agreement was that for 1 year, one of the brothers will have Draupadi's company, and that time when they are in Ekanta, if another brother enters the quarters, they have to be gone for 12 years. 12 years, severe punishment. 12 years of the best of their life. To benefit and give boons to their children, the divine fathers create situations. So we saw Arjuna had to enter into the chambers of Draupadi and Yudhishthira because a Brahmana's cows were stolen. And Kshatriya Dharma is when somebody comes and asks for your help and protection and security, it has to be granted. So he enters to pick up his weapons. And then he had to go for 12 years. And what happened in those 12 years? He amassed an enormous amount of wealth and fame, and also 3 more wives. All of those he got in 12 years. Though on the face of it, it looked like a severe punishment, it was for the sake of granting their son. His son, Indra, makes this drama. Similarly, here in Yakshaprasna also, a Brahmana comes to Pandavas when they were in Vanavasa, when they were in the forest, and this Brahmana had tied his twigs. There are twigs called aranis. These arani are pieces of wood and bone dry, and you take them and rub with each other. When you rub with each other, it kindles fire, and that is used in yajna. So he had tied this in a cloth and then hung it on top of a branch, saying that tomorrow I will use this for kindling the fire for tomorrow's yajna. But then there was a deer which comes and accidentally this bundle of twigs is caught in the horns of the deer, and it runs away. Then he comes and begs Pandavas, "Oh, I cannot function, I cannot do any yajna, so please retrieve. You are Kshatriyas, you got weapons, please retrieve my bundle of twigs." So they go hot in chase, and then but they could not get at all. they get extremely exhausted and they become very thirsty. So this was the setting behind the Yakshaprasna. So they all sat down, and then Yudhishthira asked Nakula, "You go and fetch some water." And that point already Prabhakar Garo has mentioned. So he goes there, and the Yaksha says, "Answer my questions." He says, "Nobody can own a public water source. Point of law. Eminent domain can be there only in the boundaries of a country. But there are areas which are free, nobody can claim. For example, if you go to high seas beyond the continental shelf, no country can claim this is my ocean. So therefore, how can Yaksha claim eminent domain on his on this particular lake, which is in the forest? It belongs to everybody and anybody. So that was the argument that Nakula had. How can you prevent me? This is public property. But you can't argue with a very powerful person. That is it. So he actually drops dead. He doesn't come back. Then he sends Sahdeva. Even after a while, he doesn't come back. He sends Arjuna, Bhima. And then finally, Yudhishthira was wondering, why is it that it is taking so long for his brothers? So he went and found everyone dead. So he thought, let me drink water first, and then investigate why I should, why these people are dead. Friends, please think for a moment. His dearest 4 brothers are dead. No doubt I am thirsty. What is the priority? Should I go and drink and quench my thirst and not care about the 4 brothers who are dead lying there? What priority? What is the dharma here? There is the dharma says with Atma Raksha Kartavya. A person must first preserve himself and then you do everything. Even the smallest nuanced actual activity of Dharmaraja, we can trace to a dharma. See, all of us fly. When you fly, invariably, there will be a demonstration of how to put on the oxygen mask. So what is the statement that the air hostess says? In case of an emergency, you put on the oxygen mask yourself first. Then you help others. This is the dharma Atma Raksha Kartavya. So he knew this very well. That is why he tries to drink the water first before attending to why his brothers have dropped dead. And of course, that was when Yaksha roared and said, "You cannot touch, this is my water." And then you have to answer my questions. So all the questions are answered. 124 of them, very satisfactorily. Each one deserves a close study. Please allocate 124 hours for the study of Yakshaprasna. At the end, the father, Yamadharmaraja, in the guise of Yaksha, is very pleased with the answers. He asks, "I can only revive one of your brothers. You choose whom you want." Then Dharmaraya says, "Please revive Nakula." Yama is surprised. "Why are you asking Nakula? You have a huge battle ahead of you. You have to choose either Bhima or Arjuna. And moreover, you are all Ekodaras. That means all the 3 of you are born from one womb. Why are you choosing Nakula?" For that, look at Yudhishthira's answer. I am alive, the son of one wife of my father, Kunti. I want the son of the other wife, Madri's son, also to be alive. So please revive Nakula. This quality in our Dharma Shastra is called Anrishamsyam. Anrishamsya means it is the extreme attitude of kindness and generosity. Dharma is understood as our discharging our duty and not emphasizing on right. This is another important message of Yakshaprasna. By observing our duties, the corresponding rights are enforced. For example, by my discharging the duties towards my wife, her rights are protected. I don't have to specially protect my wife's rights. This is the beautiful message of Yakshaprasna. Because for this you need knowledge, for this you need scholarship. So Yaksha asks, Kaf Panditaha, who is a learned person and who is a fool? Kaha Murkhaha. And Yudhishthira answers, Dharmajnaha Panditaha. We would say one who has studied Veda, one who has studied Upanishad, one who has studied sciences, arts is a Pandita who has mastered 1,000 books. Yudhishthira dismisses all of them and says only one who knows Dharma is a Pandita. Nastikaha murkha ityuchyate. Nastika means one who thinks that the material world and material possessions are real. There is no God, there is no afterlife, there is no karma, there is no karma phala. That person is indeed a fool. Because if he holds those values, he will not appreciate, he will not honor Dharma. Unless we believe in the doctrine of karma, unless we believe in the idea that there is Ishvara, and unless we believe that Ishvara is there in our heart, we will not do Dharma. And this we see all the time. We are also seeing it in the body politic. Another beautiful question. What is the most wondrous thing in the universe? Kim Mascharyam. Now Yudhishthira responds, Ahanyahani bhutani gachanti hayamalayam. Ahani, day in and day out. Living beings are going to the land of death. Gachanti yamalayam. Sheshaha sthavaramicchanti. Whoever is alive, they think they will live forever. Kimascharyam atah param. What is more wondrous than this? That everybody thinks that I am immortal, even though there is a procession of people who are dying everywhere. All right, then, if this is so, you have to follow Dharma, you have to practice Anrashamsyam, and then you have got to be aware of my mortality so that there are urgency in performing Dharma. All of these things are beautiful. But what is the method? So Yaksha asks, Kapantha. What is the method of achieving this? This is a very profound question. And Yudhishthira's answer is the most apt for this question. How is it to, what are the means by which we try to solve the problems? The first effort we do is by logic. We say idam sati, idam hoti. As Bhagavan Buddha says, if this is there, that will happen. So you give me these resources, I will give you this result. This. But then we start having this conversation using logic. Then another person who is much more brighter than I am will come and actually present another logic which refutes my logic. So which logic should I follow? So Dharmaraya says, Tarko apratishtaha. All right, let me go to the scripture. If you go to Sankhya, that will tell you what is the purpose of life. And that whole thing is challenged in yoga. That is challenged in Vaisheshika. That is challenged in Vedanta. Which one do you accept? One says the world is not real, another says the world is real. One says Ishvara is you, another says Ishvara is somewhere else. Shrutayo vibhinna. The various texts are different, contradictory. There is no one sage or one author whose word I can take as the final arbiter of knowledge. Naiko Rushihi Yasya Matam Pramanam. Na Eko Rushihi. There is not one sage, Yasya Matam, whose opinion is Pramanam, whose opinion is completely flawless. Then what about Dharma? Is it as visible to me as the sun in the sky? Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam. The importance of dharma is hidden completely. So what can I do? So the Yudhishthira gives a beautiful, beautiful answer. Mahajano yena gatas sapanthaha. Just to look in society, there are great people who are uncompromisingly living the life of dharma. Follow them. And such people will be there all times, everywhere. Mahajano enagan katasapanthaha. Logic is uncertain. Scriptures are contradictory. There is not one sage whose opinion is unrefuted. Truth about dharma is hidden, and therefore there is one way. Tread the path of great people. Krishna himself says this in the Bhagavad Gita, Yadyad acharate shresthaha tattadevetaro janaha. The way in which a noble person conducts himself, that is emulated by others. Sayat pramanam kurute lokastadanuvartate. Whatever standards that great person sets, that is what everybody should and will follow. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 21. The last question of the Yakshaprasna is another beautiful nugget. Who is the wealthiest person in the universe? Sarvadhani kaha. The wealthiest. Look at the answer. Tulye priya priye yasya sukha dukkhe tathaivacha atita anagate cha ubhe savai sarvadhani naraha. Exactly mirrors the Sthitaprajna standard set in Bhagavad Gita, Sukhe Dukkhe Sameh Kritva Labha Labho Jaya Jayo. For whom things likable and otherwise, both things come in our lives. And sorrows come, happiness comes. In both, one who is equanimous maintains his poise, and that person is actually the one who is the wealthiest. Obviously, as I mentioned, each one of the verses of Yakshaprasna, each one of the questions and each one of the answers are so profound, so deep. It requires a much deeper study. The best I could do is to just introduce the glory of that text, and I hope that inspires all of you to take to the deeper study of Yakshaprasna. Thank you very much again to Nadaveda Adhyayana Kendra and the Waves Studies and Dr. Prabhakar Garu for kindly inviting me to make this presentation. Thank you very much. Om Tat Sat, Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. Thank you.
Thank you, Shri Aswath. This is Neeraj, and this was a very, very wonderful presentation and talk. I learned so much from you. I have made a note of points also, and I have the script in front of me about the Yakshaprasna, which I just found it online, and exactly the commentaries from Neelkant G. That's what exactly I was looking into. So this is such a wealth of knowledge. Just I could not even imagine. Like each and every question is full of knowledge, and I want to also congratulate you from your last year award, which I got to know that from the senators you received an award as a highest representative for the Ohio. I'm looking into this here, that the House of Representatives under the sponsorship of Representative Anita Somani, they awarded you with this award. So heartily congratulations. And you are playing such a nice role in the Hindu University of America. So thank you for that. Few of the points like which I liked was this mastak and pustak, that they rhyme so well. Like we now use all the pustaks, but previously our all the sages, everybody used to put in their head like mastak. So how much rhyming it is. So that is such a good point. I would say that all this, the questions, even though they have deeper meaning, and we definitely have to take more sessions from you, and maybe Prabhakarji also, and to get this wealth of wisdom. I was just thinking, like, since these questions are so vast, comparing this to the modern world, when a family member of us is in so much of trouble, and then we lose our state of mind. When Yudhishthir Maharaj saw all four of his brothers lying in front of him, and he did not lose his patience, and how this can be applied to their day-to-day lives, that is something to learn from. And I would like to know what is your viewpoint on this, like how we can implement this in our life.
One of the main things is in the immediate example, let us say that all the four brothers are actually dead. There is nothing you can do about it to bring them back. So dukkha is there, but dukkha should not completely paralyze the person. And he must actually become a role model, because again, connect this to Mahajano Yena Katas Sapanthaha. So there are two ways I can look for a extraordinary leader to follow. And after following that leader, I must emulate and I must be the leader to my successors. And therefore, it is only in the most challenging situation the best quality has to be brought out. That is what Yudhishthira is trying to show to us. And again, as you said, absolutely no tension. And then the worry, the sorrow, the sadness of the death of his brothers is not clouding the absolute responses to the various questions. So how he can separate, compartmentalize in his mind is again something that is worthy of our emulation. This we see that even, for example, there's something is going on in the nations, then that actually disturbs a person so much that their day-to-day life is also upset. If we see on the television something that is very Palgaon, for example, just on top of my mind, so we can become paralyzed. The mind can become paralyzed with that. But now a Mahajana will be actually thinking, what can I do to prevent something similar? How will I be alert to in future? Because what is done is done. So that kind of equanimity is what Yudhishthira actually demonstrates here.
Yes, and that's so wise. And these are all these very nice thoughts. Is there any particular question answers out of this 124 which we have not discussed? But is there any particular question which you think like we should definitely always remember, take it as a gem or the life principle?
Mahajano Enagatasya Panthaha actually summarizes pretty much everything, because whatever principles that Yakshaprasna discusses, a Mahajana practices. So that is why I
Okay.
picked up the most important conversation there. And again, by criticizing on logic, tarka, or by the vision of the sages, we are actually affirming that they are also the means for knowledge, but not the end for knowledge. That's another important point to note. We cannot give up logic altogether. We cannot give up the opinion of the sages altogether. That has to be one of the factors for our conduct. So on the face of it, when you study that response, it will say, okay, I'll reject all logic. I will do everything instinctively. Then it will be disastrous. So therefore, that is again an underlying message. That's why I chose that particular verse.
Okay, very nice.
So beautiful that even in Viduraniti, we have that Vidura telling Mahajana, Uttama Kula, and all this definition. So, who is Mahajana according to Krishna? Sochya, Asochya, Nandasochyastvam. Prajnavadamscha bhashase. Gatasu, Nagatasumscha, Nanusochanti Panditaha. It's a beautiful Mahajana definition because we should have some equipoised mind and see that what we can do. Mahajanas are not at all very much worried and they always balance things between this and that. Even in Saurasuktam of Rigveda, Pasyan Janmani Surya. So Surya Bhagavan is going on and on, looking at the people coming and dying, coming and dying. He is not at all bothered. He never goes out of the. So because the actual Yakshaprasna began with Surya Bhagavan. So Sunday. So that Surya is a repository of any and everything, a great suggestion to all people. And so that's what struck to that Prasad when he was made to sit on the wall, very much afraid he can fall that way or that way. It is wall is small width and also crying. Okay, any child, anybody will cry. Dukkam comes to that scaring and fear. So like that, but Surya Bhagavan is a Brahma, and he depends on others also. There are other people because no God, no individual can independently manage. There are other people also who come into picture and they help. That's exactly Brahma, Devaha, Dharmam, Satyam. So these are all the important concepts which are being elicited, which are being elucidated in the Yakshaprasnas. So Yakshaprasna, Bhagavad Gita, Anugita, and Sarat Sujatiyam, and Viduraniti. Well, these are all very important texts apart from other things. And also, our Aswath Garu told another episodes how the divine fathers meet their sons and indirectly is this yaksha. See, see paroksha priyayavahi devaha. So these, but only Dharmaraja had lot of things. Even when he was trying to walk away after the death of all his brothers with the dog, so the guards stopped the Devaduta stopped the vehicle and said, "Mount, yeah, board the car. Why do you walk up to?" Sargarohana Parva. Then he said, no, he made first the dog to climb. They denied. Dog cannot. After all that, that the Dharmaraja, Yama was in the form of dog. He appeared before son Dharmaraja, said, "You have done so much sacrifice to protect me, to keep me always with you, Dharma. So now I free you. You can go to heaven independent of me." So that's what would happen, because dog walking is good, but even dog also controls you very much. Therefore, even the dog also disappears. That is Yama Dharmaraja, and Dharma will be relieved from him. So, the Mahabharata is a wonderful guidance, and in all kinds of problems to get solutions of that, because man is made up of problems, prasna, pariprasna, and so on and so forth, and they're all very nice to us. And so I think today we have a wonderful opening of the Yakshaprasna section, and moreover, already Dr. Aswath Garu has started classes on Yakshaprasna. The moment I asked him, "Sir, you speak on Yakshaprasna," oh, it's a very, just like water I drink, because I've been drinking that water every time. It's like Bisleri water or whatever it is. So it is easy for me to go. Actually, I gave some other topic, requested. No, Yakshaprasna is good enough for me. So he has been traveling, explaining the inner meaning and the commentators, and because Sanskrit is such that the deeper you dive, the more ratnas you will be able to find. Therefore, and moreover, that's why even today the Sanatana Dharma is great. And moreover, Samvada Suktas begin from the Rigveda itself. There's a dialogue. Through dialogue only we get all the knowledge. That's why Upanishads, dialogues are there and parables are there. So this is a wonderful opening for all of us to get into the lifestyles and exactly the methodology. See how best we are able to solve the problem. I remember my mathematics algebra teacher in BSc. He would draw the algebra equation on the board and turn towards us and say, "How do we get the solution? How do we solve?" Immediately he used to say, "Your head multiplied by my head is equal to the answer." So the students will be attentive in maths class. So like that, there is that dharma. Even Yaksha Dharmaraja was also educated. Yama was also educated with the knowledge of Dharmaraja. Not that only we get educated. So it's always the interflow of knowledge that makes everybody happier and make their life easy. So wonderful time we have been able to spend now, and we wish Aswath Garu to come up with some other aspect. Now he has made a general comprehensive survey of the things, detailing the first question only. We are only in the Sree Ganeshaya Namaha. So some other time we request him to come and go up to Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. So in between we have a lot of time. Yes, sir.
I took the first question and the last question.
So all are sandwiched. The other things are all sandwiched in between. Beautiful. So burger also. So and moreover, we should tell that our Neeraj Arora is a doctor, very busy doctor, neurologist. You could see his dress. But I pulled him to this section. I requested him, and he said readily agreed, because he is conducting Bhagavad Gita classes in the Hindu temple here in Ohio, in this Columbia, and he has gathered more than 20, 30 students of all ages, and every Saturday he sits with them and then makes them read a few slokas. Now he is in second chapter. So this is a good drive to draw all these people who are very busy with their professions. So then once I asked, I start classes here. Then some of them said, "Sir, where are the parents available to bring their children to this to your class?" Because they're all busy on Saturdays, weekends. So if you start weekend, so that's how the class could not start. But I congratulate Aurora ji, Adira, who was very bold to start the class, and people come and join ultimately. So one has to steer life. That's exactly is the drive that you get from the Yaksha Prasnas. Because Yaksha tried to get answer from the brothers, but all the four brothers were trying to evade it and were selfish. Atmaraksha Kartavya. But they never wanted to answer. But Dharmaraja is somebody who is told that no, first of all, you should look to others, paropakaram and nijekshana. Nijekshanaya paropakaraya, as Mahidara tells it. Why you comment? People comment, make commentaries only to benefit themselves and benefit others. So this way we will be called as a Mahajanas, otherwise Atmajanas only, Atmahanaha. So beautiful session we have. I think Prasad has got something all the time. We are only talking. He can talk to us.
Thank you, Aswath Garu. Very, very wonderful talk. I enjoyed how you set up the context for the question answer, because I think that's very important of understanding why this was such a desperate and quick wit for Yudhishthira to really solve a crisis. And such clever answers, very, very eternal, as you also pointed out. And the interaction is, as my father was saying, is for everybody. Not just for Yama learned, Yudhishthira we learned. So it's very eternal truths, very nicely, very cleverly put. But one question I have is why was this requirement for saving one life? I don't know if you have any more thought about why was the option given to only save one life. But of course, he saved all the lives at the end. But what is the intention of saying you only get a chance to save one life? And the dilemma, like you said, Yudhishthira picking the son of the other mother, but Madri, right? But why was that condition put?
It is exactly to test the andrushamsyam, as I mentioned. It is exactly to test how kind a person can go. Because if you had chosen any of the other Kaunteyas, then it would be a natural filial attraction. But to choose somebody who is not my blood, that is, who is my other wives, my father's other wives' son, there is always a possibility you look that that person is somewhat different. So in this context, I'll give you a personal note, because again, Mahajano Yenagata Sapanthaha, right? So my grandfather had a brother, and then we are my grandchildren of my grandfather, and then his brother also had children. So every festival, whether it is Yugadi or whether it is Deepavali, my grandfather of very meager means would actually get all of us clothes. He could have simply got clothes just for his immediate grandsons, but actually he got the clothes stitched for his brother's children also. This is a simple, it looks so simple, and it is something that we may not even note. Oh, my grandfather got clothes for all the children. But here you see Andrustam Syam, that is, he never thought that his brother's children are somebody other than his own. So that is what actually, I'm sure that my grandfather was also impressed and inspired by, he was himself a great scholar. Then he puts it into practice. This is what even in my Bhagavad Gita classes I tell everyone, samadrishti. See everybody with the same eye. Your brother's children, your sister's children are as much your own children. And that's what he is trying to convey to us, because he has to set a standard.
Yeah, it reminds me that when you go to a job interview, they ask technical questions and behavioral questions. So I feel like this was a behavioral question, right? This is beyond sort of the technical answers he was giving. He was asked to kind of also demonstrate. But why the test for Yudhishthira? Like, why was Yudhishthira had to be tested like this?
Because he is his son. Another, he is Dharma Raja. That is, he is the one who is actually the character created for perfection of dharma, and in spite of any of the challenges, he will not swerve from dharma. For the sake of dharma, I will give up everything. Rama also says in the Valmiki Ramayana, if for the sake of dharma, I am ready to give up even Sita. So
Namaste.
that,
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought you were done with your answer, and I had a question related to the dharma part that you just mentioned. So Yudhishthira performed his dharma when the Yaksha came in front of him and wanted to ask him questions before he could drink the water out of the pond. So when the other brothers drank the water out of the pond by not answering the same questions, or when the Yaksha came and told them that you have to answer questions, does that mean the other brothers did not perform their dharma in that moment by not
they are
go ahead.
good question. Here there will be conflict of dharmas. Always in our life we face conflict of dharma. Both are dharma only. For example, I am dying of thirst. So I must drink water because Atma Raksha Kartavya, I have got to protect my life. That is dharma. Then the second dharma is I cannot appropriate somebody else's property without their permission. That's also dharma. So when these two dharmas conflict, how do you take a decision? That is the issue there. So the four brothers, they take the decision to drink the water because first it is apadharma, because I am going to die if I don't drink. And the second one is they could not understand the idea that somebody can own a property which is considered as public property. So because of that confusion between the two dharmas, they actually drank the water and died. Whereas for Yudhishthira, it is possible that he had the same question.
Right.
How can Yaksha claim ownership on a public property? He might have had it. But the thing is, the concept of patience, wait, let us see, that is that extra edge that Yudhishthira has. Because if it turns out that Yaksha has actually misappropriated public property, Yudhishthira would not have hesitated to pick up his weapon and fight Yaksha. But he pauses for a moment to give a chance to understand from what background Yaksha is coming. So that is another quality that we learn here, that when we take decisions, you also have to take very carefully. Decisions must be weighed.
Okay.
So that's the demonstration between the contrast between the two that Vedavyas Maharshi is presenting to us.
So it is not wrong on the part of the other brothers. It is not considered adharmic for having drunk the water. However, what would be a greater act of dharma is to have the patience before taking any action. That is the learning in that piece, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank
There
you.
is always a conflict of dharma will be there. There is always a conflict of the multiple dharmas. Which one should I espouse at this moment?
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So kim dharmam, kim adharmam, munayopi mamuhu. So even munis were confused, but still they took a stand and try to teach people, give lessons to people how best you can act under the crisis. Because crisis management is the most important thing in all our scriptures.
Right.
So that crisis management depends upon your own vyutpatti, pratibha, and experience, anubhava. I think so. Anyway, good question.
Thank you.
Dharma, dharma. Similarly, punya, punya. All these things are always doubtful thing, ambiguous. Difficult to take sides for these things. Unless some kind of authority, some kind of understanding, or some kind of support or all that is there, we cannot act because life is full of doubts and crisis. So thank you. Aswath Garu has answered very nice. No, thank you, sir. Because you are catching upon this kindness, especially to all people commonly. That is individualistic philosophy. If a parent gets clothes stitched to his own children, but is able to get these clothes stitched to other also on a festival day, it's really a great generosity, ethical feeling. But that was the earlier time. That's why we call
And that
Sanatana.
was something he could hardly afford also.
They could go out of the way for that.
So
So
that is
Any-
Mahajano Yenagatassa Pantha.
that
If you
itself is an essay topic. We had to answer in our English. Mahajano yenagataha sapantha. Another thing is apantanantu gachantam sodaropi vimunchati is Vibhishana and Ravana in Ramayana. See, Tiryanchopi Sahayatamanta. See, if at all you are on the right way, even the animals will come and help you. And if you are not on the right way, so that's why the scriptures tell everything before our table, and it is up to us to choose either you want coffee, decoction, or sugar, or milk, and or biscuits. So one of them, or all of them, or some of them, make yourself comfortable. So that is the life that we are taught in our scriptures. Thank you, sir. Any more?
you.
So now we thank everybody, whoever has taken place. And Gopi Chand is another doctor. I don't know, he has been student of that. I don't know whether he has got anything to ask. He has been having a lot of questions. Sir, I have got a number of questions.
Sir, shall I speak, sir?
Yeah, you ask. The right person is here with us.
No, I just want to tell one addition, sir, not any clarification or question or something. This word dharma, my understanding and to some extent, is very relative. It depends where you are. For example, I will give a simple example, sir. For example, our soldiers, they kill the enemy, we award them. But for enemy, he is an enemy. So this dharma is very relative. There is no fixed thing, this thing. And even in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna says, Sahajam karma kaunteya sadosha vivi natyajeti. Sarvarambhabhi dushena dhume nagni rivavrata. And he says, whenever you are in confusion, in the last chapter 18, in the lastly, he says, when the Arjuna is not getting convinced, then the Sarva Dharma Parityajya Namamekam Sharanam Raja. So whenever you are in doubt or whenever in this dondwa, you forget everything. You just surrender to me. That is what the understanding is. Otherwise, this dharma is it's very difficult. As you said, rightly correct, and as you said, Professor Aswath also told, there are a lot of confusion even with the big people. And even in Bhagavad Gita, so many places, Krishna says, it is not that easy to understand the dharma. It is not that easy to understand any karma as that for that matter. So this dharma is very, very relative. And in somewhere I read in Vedanta also, whenever you are in doubt, you have to follow your heart. That is the final thing. You may get some conflicting advice from scriptures, from books, from the from the learned people. It may confuse you, but what your heart says, if you follow that, then there is no sin. This is what I understand, sir. I understood reading Bhagavad Gita. So you should be nirdvandva, nirdvandva nitya sattvatsva, niryoga kshayama atmavan. That is in the second chapter. Krishna says, be without any dvandva. Don't have any dvandva. If you have the dvandva, just surrender to me. That is your job. That you are done with that, with your confusion and all that. This is my understanding, sir. If there is any confusion, if any this thing, I am ready to get corrected. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's very nice. And we'll ask Sivalingaya to conclude with Mangalam.
ॐ कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय हरिये परमात्मने प्रणतक्लेशनाशाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। कृष्णाय यादवेन्द्राय ज्ञानमुद्राय योगिने नाथाय रुक्मिणीशाय नमो वेदान्तवेदिने कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय नन्दगोपाय विन्दाय नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णन् वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ तत्सतं सर्वं श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु श्रीवासुदेवार्पणमस्तु श्रीवेदपुरुष आशीर्वादोऽस्तु। ॐ श्रीमातृचरणारविन्दार्पणमस्तु। ॐ तत्सत्। हरि ओं नमस्ते।